Welcome to the Long Thread podcast about spinning, stitching, and weaving by hand. The podcast is presented by Long Thread Media, publishers of Spin-Off, Handwoven, Piecework, and Little Looms magazines. Find us online at longthreadmedia.com. Trinway Silks is where weavers, spinners, knitters, and stitchers find the silk they love. Select from the largest variety of silk spinning fibers, silk yarn, and silk threads and ribbons at trinwaysilks.com. You'll discover a rainbow of colors thoughtfully hand-dyed in Colorado. Love natural? Trinway's array of wild silks provide choices beyond white. If you love silk, you'll love Trinway Silks, where superior quality and customer service are guaranteed.
This episode is sponsored by the Mountain and Valley Fiber Arts Festival, coming to Durango, Colorado, the first full weekend in October. Formerly the Tailswool Festival, this new chapter brings together natural fiber artists, vendors, instructors, growers, and makers for a weekend of shopping, learning, and community. Plan your fiber arts weekend at mavwa-fiberartsfest.org. That's MAVWA fiberartsfest.org.
I'm your host, Long Thread Media co-founder Ann Merrow. Lir Shilton and her partner created Ribblr, a website and technology platform that combines a new approach to knitting and crochet instructions with a lively community of crafters and designers. Lir, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Anne.
So you are one of the founders of a website and a community called Ribblr. And I should say that Ribblr is spelled, if people want to look this up while we're speaking, it's R-I-B-B-L-R. Can you tell me a little bit about Ribblr and how it came to be?
Well, to be honest, it's a bit of a crazy story that started with a glass of wine. And I think that's, how every story should start, maybe. But yeah, I was sitting, I think after dinner with the other co-founder, which happens to be my husband, Saar. And he has been a witness of my journey over the years of becoming a crochet designer, from learning to crochet, teaching myself how to crochet over on YouTube, and then starting to follow some patterns, and then eventually realizing that what I like the most about it is actually designing my own stuff and not to just follow patterns. And then kind of like selling in markets and creating so many different things, and eventually deciding to create patterns and sell them on Etsy, on my own website, and wherever, like to magazines, wherever you can. And the process of creating patterns is, how would you say that? It's very tedious, because 20% of it is actually crafting and making the actual thing that you want to make. And then 80% of it is trying to find a way to put all the pictures that's aligned in a document and write it up and then convert it into UK terms and US terms and provide 2 PDFs. And then you have to have a specific size for Etsy of the PDF. So you have to try and compress it without distorting the image quality, and then attaching a video and unlisting it. And there's so many different steps that, to be fair, wasted my time, because I wanted to focus on the creation element. And he was witnessing this whole process every time that, I designed a new pattern and I was working on it, and it would take me ages. And then it's like, why is it like this? That's the question that he asked me. Why is it like this? I think it was, at the time it was 2019. And it's like, it's 2019. Apps are like, there's an app for everything. Why isn't there an app that helps designers design patterns and crafters consume patterns in a more user-friendly way instead of PDF? So that's where it started. And then we created Ribblr, which is sort of like a bridge between a design studio for designers to create their patterns, and then on the consumer part, on the makers of getting patterns and using amazing tools to help you read through a pattern without giving up midway because it's too difficult to read. And a lot of more interactive features that have never existed before, because you can't have them in a printable format or digital file that is not an app-based. And from that idea, we brought it into the community around myself, basically other designers that I've been in touch with and customers that I've had over the years and people that I've connected with, and kind of like formed an idea. To be fair, a lot of that original idea didn't last into the final product because there were some bad ideas as well as part of it, because it's a journey of creation. You get some ideas that are good, some that are bad, some that stick, some that don't. And we've started working on it together with all the feedback that we got from other designers. Then we started beta testing, and we've made Ribblr, which was a website and an app. And since then, we've grown massively, and we've built a community that's amazing, a marketplace for patterns, obviously, where you design it and sell it. And now actually we are going to be launching yarns very soon. So another product that first time creating, and I'm very excited about it. But yeah, I think it was a lot of background to how Ribblr was formed. Yeah, it wasn't actually too long ago, only 6 years ago. 6, 7 to all the young kids.
Which is one of those things where it both feels like a really long time and the blink of an eye. Longthread also started in 2019, and some days it feels like we've been doing this forever, and other days. So you started off primarily in crochet, but this is also a knitting site now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I started as a crochet designer, and over the years I've picked up knitting. And again, sometimes I knit more, sometimes I crochet more. I guess my instinct is crochet because it's more of where I started. But I think just because when we started, it was right before COVID, and when we released, it was like 2 months or 3 months before COVID. And over COVID, crochet has gotten a very big spike in acquiring new users, of people who crochet, new makers that join the crafting community. So because of that, Ribblr has had a big surge of crocheters. So we have slightly more skewed proportion of more crocheters than knitters, but we do have knitting as well. And myself, I knit and crochet. So yeah, we have both. We also have sewing patterns, which is a bit differently because again, it's not a yarn art, and it works a bit differently with the fact that you still do have to print it, but the instructions are still in the same layout. But we haven't really focused on sewing as one of our main, categories, because we have more people in the other categories. So it's still a bit niche on Ribblr.
I think sometimes it takes somebody who's beginning in a new endeavor to ask, why is it this way? It's somebody who's been doing something feels, first of all, they've pushed through that part that's really uncomfortable, and maybe have thought, okay, now that I'm more experienced, I don't question this anymore. And there's a perspective and a freshness and also a bravery to somebody who hasn't kind of been through this already.
Yeah, exactly. It's also, I guess, a bit of luck that my partner in life is a person that actually does media, community building, online coding, and all of that kind of thing. Because I don't think that if it wasn't for him, I would have been able to pull it off, because I don't know the capabilities of, now I know after learning, like sitting alongside the coders, the people who build Ribblr, I learned a lot about that, and they learned a lot about yarn and crochet and stitches and everything. But before that, I didn't know the capabilities and how you can do it even. So it was a bit of luck. It was a good combination.
There is a great tradition of a crafter and a partner with a set of skills and an outside perspective coming together. And sometimes it's like a spinning wheel or a loom manufacturer, a website, something like that. But that sort of partnership that I think is really kind of cool in craft. And you often wind up with something that is really strong and long lasting.
Yeah, I think it is. Husband and wife kind of duos do pop up a lot in the crafting space. I think it's amazing because, well, first of all, I'm happy that people are in relationship that allows kind of like growth of each other and kind of like partnering. Some people would not like that, I hear, but for me, I can't imagine it any other way in my relationship and in life. But yeah, it's beautiful, I think, to see that your personal partnership can grow into like an actual business partnership and creating something new.
And maybe it kind of goes along with the fact that both of you have a background in music as well. So there's a collaboration and a playing together element.
Yeah, we did meet around music and play together, even though we both have our separate kind of music that we do by ourselves. We sometimes do things together and we feature each like in each other's, shows and stuff like that. We haven't played in a while, but yeah, we had some practice over the years.
And now a word from our sponsors. The Michigan Fiber Festival, Michigan's largest sheep and wool festival, is a vibrant world of fiber arts. Discover 5 days of classes with nationally recognized teachers in spinning, weaving, lace making, dyeing, felting, and rug hooking. Enjoy 3 days of shopping, delight in shearing and fiber arts demonstrations, and enjoy a truly immersive experience. Join us in August at the picturesque Allegan County Fairgrounds. You can even camp on site. Find more details at michiganfiberfestival.info. And now back to the show.
You mentioned that Saar is very involved in community building, and community is a really important element of Ribblr. I know what I've seen when I explored it, but can you tell me about how you built that and what you expected and what's surprising? Because I think often building communities, they often go in directions you're not expecting.
Wow. Yeah, I think everything about it is surprising to me personally, because as you said, Saar is the element in our team that is most connected to the community. It's something that he's been doing since he was like 10, I don't know, like since the internet, I guess. And I've always actually been quite, I wouldn't say bad, but it was harder for me to get into online community. But I'm a lurker. So I would just sit and read everything. But for me to participate and to understand communities, it is still a bit tricky for me even now. But for me, it's just amazing to see how some people who still would not even know the word crochet or knitting, they would think just like, oh, that hobby that you see sometimes in movies, that is the theme that brings so many people from all over the world, from so many walks of life, ages, languages, backgrounds, colors, into one place and share a passion and excitement about that one thing. And the environment that we've built, I think we've been a bit more strict, though, I have to say, with trying to keep our community on the positive side, which is a tricky situation for a lot of different communities. They can go astray into territories that they become toxic or not safe for some people. We've been quite strict in trying to moderate and make sure that everybody knows the limits to what you can do, what you cannot do, how you can speak, how you cannot speak, what you can speak about, what to take elsewhere to a different community. And we've created a very, very loving and supporting and fun environment of like a community space. So I'm very proud of it, even though my nature is not to actually be super active in communities. I'm still very proud of it as a lurker and a moderator.
And I noticed that the community on Ribblr tends to be very kind of immediate. It's a lot of people who are checking in kind of off the cuff. Here's what I'm experiencing right now. This isn't like long form commentary necessarily. It's very much people connecting all across the world, but right in the moment.
Yeah, and we also have like a chat feature as well. So some people would check in like a topic or a post. There would be like a check-in, oh, this is what I made, and then they'll get lots of support in the comments and other people sharing what they made, but they can also take it into kind of like chat rooms, and there's also kind of groups on the community, so you can belong to specific groups, and there's like levels. It's very gamified. Our whole approach to Ribblr and crafting has been to implement lots of gamification because it makes it more interesting and more fun and it spices it up a little bit. So the community as well is very fun and bubbly, I would say.
Yeah. And you have a mascot. You have a little is it Ribbit, Ribbot, or is it Ribbot? How do I say it?
It's pronounced Ribbot because he actually began as the community bot that when we built it, there is a bot that takes you through like the tour of how to use the community, and it kind of like tells you click here for reply. You basically communicate with that bot. So we said, oh, let's call it Ribbot because Ribblr bot. It wasn't a frog in the beginning. It was just the Ribblr bot. And then I was like, why is there's no profile picture to Ribbot? Who is Ribbot? Let's give him some personality. And then I created him. And from there, from creating Ribbot, it grew into this whole Ribbot verse, Ribbot world. And it's still growing. And I think we are going to release even more Ribbot stuff in the near future. So yeah, very fun.
And like Ribbot, kind of dances and has a little persona and appears on the Ribblr show and all this. Yeah,
he does. He's very cute. Yeah, he's all over and people love him. I mean, sometimes in the show, it's hard to read through everything because the chat in our Ribblr show, hosted by Vincent, who is another team member, the chat is so full of comments that it moves so fast even for me to read. But every time Ribbot makes an appearance, it's like, oh, all hail Ribbot, our Lord and Savior Ribbot. He should rule the world.
How does Ribbot work? I mean, how do you animate him?
There's a few different animation styles. Dancing Ribbot is something that we've commissioned like a 3D model artist to do that specific thing. But the bits that are on the show and when he does all sorts of like videos and stuff like that is something that I animate using our kind of like the Photoshop files of Ribbot, like the creatives, and I can connect it to another Adobe software that I can rig it, and if I move, it does the movement. So
oh my gosh, it's like Avatar. You do have to glue little white dot now, okay?
Yeah, well, technically it puts the dots on my face. It just recognizes them on me. Like it looks at, like it connects to my camera. It sees me, and then it puts like the dots, and then it connects it to. I'm rigging it like a puppet, Ribbot as a puppet, and then I can move. I can decide what he says, and then I change the backgrounds. I do all sorts of cute things. But yeah, it's very fun for me as somebody who has a little bit of a background with video editing. So yeah, I bring a little bit of knowledge to that.
Okay, that's so funny. When I watch this again next time, I'm going to know that it's you.
I think we've even posted about it like on Instagram or something, like a behind the scenes of me going like moving my hands up and down and kind of like showing the screen of how Ribbot is moving exactly the same way. But yeah.
Part of the reason I was curious about that is at first when I saw Ribbot and the animation, I kind of wondered how that went along with something that you guys are really passionate about, which is that as a designer-led platform, it's really important to you that all of the material on the site be human created. And you've been really upfront about being like a no AI platform. So I was really curious how you have this very computer generated thing. But can you tell me a little bit about your policy about that?
Yeah, I think AI as a whole in creation is something so new to us all. And it grew so rapidly. And I think as society and as a whole, we're still not sure of where it's going to go exactly and how, and we're waiting for it to kind of like settle in place and to, relax a little bit. But where we stand, and again, it's a tricky part of not trying to stop the wave of technology from going forward, but at the same time, understanding and respecting that real creation is made by people and no computer should replace, only assist creation. So it's kind of like a tricky situation to try and find the way in between, in the middle of that. And where we've landed is that we support real creation of art. And we want to make sure that this creative field, even in the music or other background, for example, belongs to real creators and companies in general. We've also noticed, again, it's not related to AI specifically, but at the same time, and it's written in the same font, that we can see some craft companies that don't have real makers as well leading the way. Maybe not like yourself, for example. That's why we kind of like connected very well, because you are also somebody like a team of people that have crafters leading the way and creating based on what you believe in. So we're the same way. We are a group of crafters that the crafting world should be represented by real crafters, and patterns, creation, everything should be made by real people, not replaced by a computer, a prompt, somebody who's not from actually, the field of that they've, selling the patterns. Yeah, but it's tricky. It's very hard to, and it gets better, like AI, at generative creation. So for us, for example, we have a system where if you're on Ribblr and you see a pattern that you suspect was created by AI, generated, the image doesn't look right, the instruction, something that you reported to us, and then we have a team investigating the claim and trying to find, kind of like contacting the person who uploaded, the designer, to bring evidence. And sometimes it's falsely accused. So a lot of the times it could be that's correct, because people have kind of like learned to identify and to recognize specific patterns that looks not humanly made, right, in a way. So yeah, it's tricky. And I think as society, we all kind of like play it by ear, but our baseline is creation and art is made by people. And that's where we lead the way with.
That's a really nuanced way of looking at it. I think it's a really complicated question. And I was really curious about your take, such a kind of a technology forward company. We haven't even gotten to some of your incredible tech, but I did laugh. You actually wrote a song about how I can link to that. You performed a song about how you don't have AI at Ribblr.
I know. I mean, still actually back when we focused more on music, we used to do it sometimes as gags. I mean, even Saar, there was a time, I don't know if you were part of the conversation, because it's more of like a gamer thing, but something about Windows Update that you can't have, counterfeit games installed and it can remove it. And a lot of people didn't read the terms and conditions, and there was a lot of conversation about it. So I remember that we kind of like also composed and recorded the Windows Microsoft terms and conditions section where it said like that you can't install counterfeit games on. Yeah, so it's a thing that we used to do. So we're like, hey, why not do that for Ribblr as well? We could just write a song composing the no AI policy for pattern generation.
So just getting to some of the kind of underpinning of what makes Ribblr really cool to play with is that instead of just having, say, a pattern style where you write out knit2 or K2 or CH4 or something like that, the Ribblr platform, it's much more interactive.
Yeah.
And as a designer, you sort of, you start with the activities instead of the words in a way.
Well, we tried to actually make it for a designer who's actually used to writing in a specific way. It does take what the designer wrote in the way that they wrote it, but it expands on it. So on the crafter side, they can choose, for example, as you said, K2. If you don't know abbreviations of stitches, the designer could have written K2, but when the crafter consumes this, the K, you can click it and it says knit and it shows the stitch tutorial, which again, if you wrote K2 on a PDF document, I, as the consumer of that pattern, would have to go on YouTube or Google and say like, what is K knitting pattern? Try and find a video, try and see it. Like, And then it's all in one place with one click. You can see any stitch tutorials and the abbreviations. And obviously it converts, because we know that there's a bit of a difference with English US and UK with the way you kind of like write stitches and say them. It's more confusing in crochet, I think, rather than
Definitely.
knitting. Knitting is a bit more mild differences. But in crochet, it's like if you think that you're doing a US terms pattern, but it's actually UK, the result will be completely different because they're not the same stitches. Like they're said completely differently. Right. So we convert that automatically. Whereas before Ribblr, for myself, for example, I had to go and like find replace in my entire document, make a copy, call it English UK, then change all the stitches and do it all manually. And then it says that to write in the document, this is UK, this is US. But what we have now is that just one pattern you create, you as a the designer mention the language terms that you prefer, your metric system, like metric or imperial, whatever stitch, like measurement, system that you prefer to write with. And then you can just automatically switch between them. And that's incredible. Like if I would say like this piece should be 10 centimeters long, and somebody in the US, for example, would see it in inches automatically, and I didn't need to write both. So right. that came from my problems of having to look up every time, like what is 8 centimeters, what is this inches, writing both of them. It's technology is amazing, I guess.
It is. And one of the things about Ribblr being, it's entirely within the app or the website. You don't have to worry about page length. So a lot of the reason that those abbreviations are so short and sometimes difficult to interpret is because it all originated as something that had to fit on a page. So one of the cool things about Ribblr is that you can choose to cross something off line by line instead of having a separate row counter.
Yeah. Right there. Well, I guess you technically, if you do print out a file, you can take a pen and cross it. So that feature, I mean, on a print version is not too dissimilar. But if you do consume a digital file PDF on your computer, then that's where it gets a bit tricky because, I don't know, you put it like a marker. I don't know how you would do that exactly. And then you have to sit for yourself and make notes of where you are. And then if you leave the project for a little while, then you come back to it and you're like, wait, where have I been? What's exactly going on? So it's much easier to track the progress on Ribblr because then it saves for you automatically and then you can jump back into the pattern. It also shows you like a progress meter of kind of like how far have you gotten in the pattern. And you can add pictures to your project as you go. So from within the pattern, so you can open it up like a journal and you see your previous notes. So you can keep track of what you were doing all within one place, which is great. I remember having so many different notebooks and kind of like scribbles and pads all over me in every room. And I would write kind of like with a pen and then I would lose it. And then I'm like, where did I write my notes for this owl earring pattern that I came up with? I'm like, I don't know. I'll have to redo it.
Yeah. And you can also, sometimes if I substitute a color, or if it says main color, color 1, color 2, and you have to remember what color that is. And so you get out your colored pencils, or I used to sometimes like cut a little bit of yarn and put it in there. And you can actually do that right in the app.
Yeah. So I think with colors, it's really cool because you can, as a designer, set the colors that you used and name them in the system that you use. And then for the crafter, if they want to change the colors, they can just go over to the material section and select a different color. And then throughout the pattern, the colors would be highlighted as the colors that, you want to make the project with. And also, I would say the other cool interactive element, which I haven't brought up yet, is the sizing, which still kind of like uses color coordination. Obviously, you know that kind of like sizing, especially now when we want to be as size inclusive as possible, there would be like 3 sets of brackets, different elements of kind of like putting components of where you put material, sizes like going up in sizes. And for me, that was so confusing. And you have to go over the entire pattern, kind of like highlight or select just the number, the stitch for your size. And what we've done is that when designers add the sizing in their kind of like this structure of those different kind of like brackets with there's a few different systems for that, but we try to accommodate for most of them. We take that and then we, first of all, automatically color each of the sizes in a different color. So at least you can follow a specific color already, but you can also take a step, another step forward and choose to view just your size. And when you do that, in the entire instructions for the other sizes is gone. You don't see it at all. And you can only see the information that you need for your size, which declutters the view completely. And I think it's a game changer for, especially if you have some sort of like visual, some sort of learning difficulty or a dyslexia or something where you see too many things and you're easily confused by it. Just the option to remove all the noise is already incredible for a lot of people.
And I got to play with some of this myself because we've uploaded 3 of our staffs from a couple of long thread publications, and we're going to be sharing them in the month of August with a project that we're working on together, which I'm really excited about. We have 3 market bags for our marketplace plan.
Yay! Yeah, and this is part of that fun element and gamification that we talked about before, where we try and keep things exciting every month for crafters, because sometimes you burn out, you lose inspiration, and you don't know what to make. Sometimes you're full of inspiration. You're like, oh, I need to make so many different projects. And sometimes you're like, I don't feel like making anything because there's a spark missing. So we try to, what we do is every month we have a challenge that we find a theme that we like, either something seasonal or that it ties into something that we're promoting at the same time. And you follow that theme. So you make a creation according to that theme that month, and you submit it in one place where you can see everybody's submissions of the same theme and their different interpretations to the same call out. And at the end of the month, we select, depending on the month, depending on how many winners, some winners to get, a prize or prizes or different prizes. And we've had them for, I think, over a year now, a year and a half, maybe slightly longer than that. And some months you would see kind of like people say, oh, what a lovely challenge. Not for me this month. I'll join in the next one. And then they will say, oh, this is exactly what I was looking for. It's exactly what I needed. And I'm super excited about it. So it's fun to see how something that you came up with because you wanted to encourage creation is actually speaking and resonating with people, and you can actually see their feedback. So yeah, this month we have our own collaboration challenge.
Yes, I'm really excited about it. So it's kind of about, there's sort of a literal marketplace and a sort of a metaphorical marketplace. So because a lot of makers, as you did, sell items, but also there's a sort of an idea where we shop around each other's inspirations. So can you share a little bit about, since I think we're going to be doing a lot of this on Ribblr, share a little bit about what our marketplace collaboration will look like?
Yeah, so I think that when we brainstormed and kind of like thought about, like we came up with the idea, and then we were thinking that we want something that people would find that they would love to join, or they would want to join. And I think that as somebody who creates, I don't know, I can speak by myself, but I think part of the most fun, rewarding element about it is to show other people all the different things that you made and showcasing it. So for some people, they are not so sure about kind of like setting up a market stall, and pricing is don't really know how to price something that you spent a lot of time making and you're not sure about it and if it's worth it. So we've kind of like came up with, let's set up an imaginary dream stall with the things that you've made or created and worked on at home, kind of like design what your dream stall would look like if you would have made a stall, and just collect all of the little pieces. I've done it myself now just to kind of like try it out, and you kind of like go around the house and see like what you made and trying to kind of like pull and kind of like set it up nicely. But yeah, it's just to take a picture of all the different things that you made throughout the years, if you have them, just lay about the house and just showcasing them and being proud of them as if you would just selling them now in the market. Or you can actually take a picture of, if you do sell in a market, you can take a picture of your actual market stall and upload that. Like, you know, some people do go to markets, and I've never, I mean, I've sold online, but I haven't set up a proper, you know, table stall. But I always see them whenever I go about. I'm like, hey, that's a crocheter. Hey, that's a crochet stall, knitting. Yeah. So that's the challenge.
And I think different crafts, we have spinners and embroiderers and knitters, weavers, and all kinds of different fiber crafts, crocheters. And some people sell their stuff and some people don't. And some people also, there's a long tradition of in weaving guilds of having an annual weaving sale. And that tends to be more of a group endeavor. But the idea of putting together all the things that you're most proud of, I think is a really cool idea. And even if you don't ever want to like exchange what you've made for money, spending a little time thinking about how your work has value.
Exactly.
Really cool.
And also reminding yourself, because sometimes you make things and then they just like lay around the house and you forget that you even made them, or just like you lose that connection of like, you just finished a project and you're so proud of it. Like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. I love it. And then after the years, you forget about it. So just kind of like finding these little things that you made over the years and bringing them all together in one place, and remind yourself of that same feeling of being proud of completing this project.
So part of the idea is that this is like a real craft show experience where you have a variety of different crafts, you have a variety of different approaches. You have some booths that are kind of just for fun, and some that are gifty, and some that are masterpiece. This is the thing I've been working on for 10 years. So it's kind of a playful interpretation.
Yeah, and everybody will take it to their own way, and probably should expect to see different styles as well. So I know that on Ribblr, we do have a majority of our crafters focused on making amigurumi project, but recently we did see a spike and another rise of, you know, wearables and all sorts of accessories, interesting things, because a lot of the time, as I mentioned, when COVID started, the audience that joined Ribblr found crochet through TikTok, which was dominated by a lot of plushies and amigurumis. And that's what got them started on crocheting, making plushies. But for myself, it was kind of similar. And I did start with plushies. But then once you kind of like feel comfortable enough in the level of your skill, you try and like that thought comes into your head of like, wait, what if I tried to make a top, a sweater, something else? And then you grow from that point. So we noticed that growth has happened with a lot of Ribblers that have been more into amigurumis and now started expanding and even like picking up other crafts like knitting and Tunisian crochet that we also have patterns on Ribblr. So it's kind of like a similar journey of you learn a craft, you feel confident and comfortable with that craft, and then you're kind of like a taste buds for other crafts like starting to wake up and you're like, let me try that maybe.
I think most crafters have an experience with that. I certainly did. And so I was really actually kind of fun to play with the Ribblr platform, which I actually went and put in a color chart, which we had created as a PDF. So it was interesting to go in and I could pick the color. So we've put the Golden Hour bag by Kate Larson, which has been in a couple of different long thread publications, the Crocheted Peddlers bag by Katrina King, which is from Spinoff, and another project called the Bay Leaf bag, which actually has a little bit of weaving, a little bit of sewing, a little bit of embroidery. So we definitely are trying to spread the range of crafts that Ribblr supports.
Yeah, and I think that my prediction, again, it started already, so it's not like a very nuanced take on a prediction, but I think we'll see more needle craft, kind of like a needlepoint embroidery, cross stitch coming up in the next trends. I've already started seeing a rise within Ribblr users of people who are picking up cross stitch and embroidery. So excited to see what and how Ribblr users take and do these patterns, especially the weaving one. So see if anybody picks up that challenge.
Well, and we do there's a weaving option, and there's also a recycled fabric option. This bag that Kate Larson, the designer, made one of the bags she made out of a pair of recycled wool trousers because pant legs are perfect for bags. Yeah.
Well, anything could be with a little bit of vision. Anything can become anything.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I notice is really interesting here is that as we're speaking, there are things that all crafters have in common, and we all there's a range of different tastes, but then underneath it all with Ribblr, there's this sort of technology element that's supporting whether people are more playful or more serious or whatever their vibe is. There's this desire to kind of help everybody go where they want to go. And it just happens that people go with different change into being more garment focused. But this ability to sort of take your craft wherever you want to go with these tools, I think is really, empowering for folks who want to crochet anything or knit anything or sew anything.
Yeah. I mean, we look at Ribblr as a planet or maybe atmosphere or something like space where you can hang out in different planets, like a solar system, I would say. You can hang out in different planets but never interact with other planets, but still be in the same solar system. So you can, like me, not understand how to use community that much, and you can hang out more in the inspiration section and the patterns and the designing. If you're a designer, you can hang out just in the community if that's what makes it for you, that's what excites you. And inspiration, you can just design and sell if that's what interests you, but you don't have to do everything. But because you are exposed to everything and you see everything around you, you know that when you do want to try something else, it's available to you, and we kind of can help you get there in a way. So I think that's the beauty about Ribblr, that it has, to some people, they might think it's maybe, I don't know, confusing or too big or too grand to get into it. But we try and keep it sort of you do you, go into whichever section that you feel comfortable with, and you can stay there as long as you like. It's a free app as well. We have a subscription that's a bonus. It's an add-on. It's not you can keep using Ribblr for free as long as you like. And then if you do want to try our other things, we're here ready for you and we'll help you out get there. Want to become a designer? Just click open a shop and we'll guide you through it. So yeah, it's I love it as well that we have that.
And there's a lot of generosity I've noticed on Ribblr. I've noticed that a lot of the designers offer things for free, or offer, if you want to come and follow me and see what I do, here, try this out. So there's a lot of sort of generosity of here, come and visit, come and learn, come and connect.
Yeah, I think we've said that because when you're a creator of any sort of kind, you just love sharing your creation. I mean, it's the same with music for us. If your reason of doing something is only monetary or fame, then it's not the right thing for you to do, because you need to have that passion of just sharing this thing that you want to make with other people, and to see their excitement about that thing. So it's a blend of both. Obviously, you do want to support yourself or support your art or your craft, but you still want to be a part of this thing of where we create something and then we consume something else that another person made, and it's all kind of like connected in a way.
So I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned getting into yarn, which I think is when you start crafting, the idea of I could have a yarn that's my very own is such a kind of an ambitious idea. Can you tell me a little bit about how that came to be? And I know you're really excited about it.
Yeah, to be completely honest, we didn't think that this is where we will end up now, with kind of like having to come up with our own yarn. But it's mainly because the experiences we've had so far as a company, a couple of years ago, obviously more than a couple of years ago, we were in partnership with Joanne, and we all know where that ended, unfortunately. And when that ended, our users were kind of like left hanging with no place to shop in our ecosystem and kind of like stay in the same place. And at the same time, that fall of Joanne has hit waves with lots of other companies, and makers were kind of like lost their third space of where they went to get inspired by yarn and to get materials and to try new crafts and to just, be a crafter. And that sort of like made a void in that industry. And at the same time, we noticed our other kind of like yarn companies, as we've said before, not shine away from the fact that they're happy to use AI, generative AI. And that created a bit of mistrust with our community of crafters, which, again, we've already said that we want to see real art made by real people. And we don't like seeing the corporate cold suits sort of like in charge of dictating what we get at the end of the day for like as consumers. So what we've just came up with is like, there's no one that we can team up with that would do it better than what we would do, because we are in tune with our community, because we can build this knowing that the community has a say. And that's why we've kind of like approached it with just asking our users, would you like us to do yarn? And they said yes. Like 95% of the votes were yes. So we're like, okay, let's do it then. So that's how we got here, because we just felt that there was such a void now. There's not proportionate the amount of companies that are out of touch with their actual customer. They're just like, there's a disconnect, and we just need to be the bridge to bring back the company and the customer and the crafter.
Yeah. So when you're deciding what kind of yarn you're going to carry, that's sort of based on what you love as a crafter and what you see other people liking. And is it a little bit intimidating to say, okay, I'm going to come up with some yarns?
On one hand, yeah, because it's something that I've never done before. We've never done before. But at the same time, we allow ourselves to do that because we communicate that. We communicate to our users that, look, it's a first for us. We're probably not going to do it perfectly. And we will be learning. We are learning. And together we can get there. But that's something that I'm a strong believer of learn on the go with everything. Like I think it's the best way to learn, because you experience everything like on your flesh, and you're kind of like, okay, I have to make it work. So yeah, we also kind of like use a lot of the data we had from Joanne, because people were shopping on Ribblr, just not our yarn. They were shopping yarn, but just not our yarn. So we know what like, categories they went to, what yarn they liked the most, and sizes and weights and composition. So we obviously want to start with the biggest sellers for our users because we cater to them first, but eventually we want to, grow and have more and more yarns as we go again.
Yeah. That is such an exciting adventure. I'm really looking forward to it. You've showed the label and all that stuff. So exciting to see, what colors and textures and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So speaking of looking forward, I am looking forward to our challenge, our collaboration, to seeing what folks come up with. I can't wait to see the photos and chat and inspiration and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and all the different market stalls that people come up like putting together, and I don't know, to ignite their kind of like excitement about finding something that they meant, like, hey, I made this. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I will include links to the landing pages in our show notes if folks want to go check that out. And yes, as I said, Ribblr is RIBBLR.com if folks would just want to go and explore.
Yeah.
So Lir, thank you so much for being with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Anne. It's been lovely to speak with you.
Thanks to our sponsors for supporting the podcast. Thank you for listening to the Long Thread podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please rate the show and leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Thanks again.